before. Eleuthera, Exuma, San Salvador, and many more offer exciting vacation packages with affordable airfare, room rates, and exciting things to do. Andros, Bimini, Cat Island are to be considered too. This summer, do something different. Do something bold. Do something uniquely Bahamian. Travel to the Family Islands and rediscover the Bahamas. For more information, visit myoutisland.com.
Let's go! Hey! Remember when Granny said by save some for a rainy day? Living from paycheck to paycheck, you live in the worst way. Plan your future goals with B.O.B. Your future is bright, bright, bright. And you can buy that car, say regularly. Your future's bright. And you can buy that house, say regularly. Your future's bright. I see you in your business, yeah. Here's what you need to do. So a little leap a lot higher interest from B.O.B. Go B.O.B. Your bank of solutions.
Bethel Baptist Church, the Mother Church on Meeting Street, presents its annual anniversary service. 227 years anniversary service. The place, Bethel Baptist Church, Meeting Street. The date, July 30th, 2017. The time, 10 a.m. It's a live television broadcast on cable 211. Your speaker for the day, Reverend Dr. Timothy Stewart. He's the pastor of Bethel Baptist Church, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of excitement as they present their 227th anniversary service. The theme this time around, In Pursuit of Greatness, taken from Luke 22:24-30. Special music and special performances by Bethel's choir, Bethel's praise team, and Bethel's dancers. All are invited to attend this Sunday, the 30th of July. Bethel Baptist Church 227th anniversary service. You ought to be there.
I was thinking that maybe asking Diagala for all of that machine was probably a little too much, eh?
Well, I thought so.
Yeah, but you was gonna be right there present earlier if he'd say, yeah, eh? Well, anyhow, what you think about this? Having control of the TV remote.
Did you say ask him for control of the TV remote?
I did. You stay right there with your home. You can be the same one making noise for them people watching HGTV when Days of Our Lives reruns on Channel 9000.
That's true.
Just think, if we have control of the remote, we could watch anything we want to watch. And if we have reserved seating, we could watch it in comfort.
Reserve seating?
That's something else I want to ask him about.
You can't reserve no seat in them Superwash.
Well, I was thinking about them seats. I was thinking about lazy boys.
Now you're talking, because if we is the Superwash queens, we need to be on our throne.
Hold on. I don't think nobody in Superwash wants to see you on your throne.
Superwash, they wash your brushes and cleans you 24/7.
It's hurricane season, and we at the Water and Sewage Corporation want you and your water to be safe if a storm heads our way. During a hurricane, heavy rain combined with storm surges can cause an underground water well to become contaminated and unsuitable for use.
The Water and Sewage Corporation's offer of 50% off sign-up services is back for residents in New Providence and the Family Islands. Offer valid for a limited time only. Some restrictions may apply. Sign up today. The Water and Sewage Corporation. Committed to growth, committed to quality.
Transforming institutional investing, empowering Bahamians to save and invest, growing its business to create a strong and stable investment environment for generations to come. That's what CFAL has accomplished in its first 20 years. And that's what Bahamians can expect in the years to come. For at CFAL, we believe our past is a foundation for an even greater future. Call us today or visit cfal.com and seize your future.
And now, here's a message from Bishop Neil C. Ellis.
The world's definition of prosperity cannot bring you happiness. The world's definition of prosperity cannot give you a good marriage. There are wealthy people divorced. There are poor people divorced too now. But what I'm trying to tell you is, money can't keep you married. Money can't give you hope. The world's definition of prosperity cannot give you a healthy body. There are people who can afford major surgery, but the doctors done told them ain't nothing left to do. So when John says I pray that you prosper in all things. It means every area of your life. All. None excluded, all included.
Your show is the only show I listen to because you're straightforward, you're honest and a fair man, and you call it like you see it.
You and I know that kickbacks in this country is a big thing, and that needs to be dealt with, and only can be dealt with as talk. Go! Hello, Dr. Steve McKinney. All right, you're listening to you talk. I think you're right when you say TLC is finished. Because I look at it and say, Brad Davis is like a shark in the water now. And anybody who tried to join the PLC, try to take over, he'll eat them. Because he ain't giving the people who hungry for that post to be prime minister.
They talking about Moody and IDB is the biggest entity in the world, and they know what's happening. So why are you going to lie to them and say this happening and it ain't happening?
Mr. McKinney, this system that we are in, this system is killing us. We need leaders. This system needs to be attacked. We must put this system in place where we can do some things to cause investors to look at us and say, you know something? Things change. Things are different. We cannot continue with this. Baby! So you can beat around and do with the little small man, the little thing, but the big thing needs to be attacked. The monster in the room needs to be attacked, and that is the system.
It is Thursday, the 20th day in the month of July, 2017. Time marches on, and boy, this rain seems to be something else, right? As you battle the congested city streets and drive home traffic, we have thunderstorms on the way, overcast skies right now in the nation's capital. 89 degrees right now it is in the capital. There's a low tonight of 82 degrees. And of course, there is a 90% chance of rain. 90% chance of rain tonight in the forecast. It looks like a rainy night in Bahamas. Thank you so much for joining us on the drive home. I'm Steve McKinney. This is Hard Copy, and we're brought to you today by CFAL, Cleaner Financial Advisors Limited, Bank of the Bahamas, the Bank of Solutions, Super Value, the All Bahamian Supermarkets, the Show Bistro, Mount Tabor, Inspiration, Rocky Farms Nursery, Water and Sewage Corporation, the Ministry of Tourism, Travel the Islands this summer, Echo Water, the official water of Hard Copy, Commonwealth Bank, the new debit card available for travel this summer, Cool Tech, the air can do experts on Tonic Williams Darling Highway, Bahamian Brewery and Beverages, Super Wash open 24/7, Advantage Shores and Brokers 61 Collins Avenue, Ron's Electric Motors, Claridge and Wolf Road. Ron Frazier can fix any large motor, you just check him out. Executive Printers on Jerome Avenue, McKinney Media Group for advertisement, public relations, and consultation. And Bethel Baptist Church, 227 years, the oldest, most historic Baptist church in the Bahamas. And yes, they celebrate on Sunday with Reverend Dr. Timothy Pastor Stewart. So we are looking at what's happening here today. I'm telling you, this is quite interesting. And we want to tell you that, well, let me just tell you, it appears, my friends, that another politician has been charged and arraigned before the courts of the Bahamas on bribery and corruption charges. Several counts, in fact. The Honorable Frank Smith, Senator, was taken before the courts today, this afternoon, after being taken into custody overnight. He was reportedly questioned on an active fraud probe. And he's represented by Damien Gomez, who's his counsel. Smith was the chairman of the Public Hospitals Authority during the Christie administration. He had fought gallantly to earn the nomination for the PLP, as you remember, in the last election. But of course, he was outwitted by one Wayne Monroe, who is also QC and an attorney. And of course, he is the person who is now representing the other politician who was brought before the courts last week, Mr. Ken Dorset. And so Smith was escorted into the magistrate's court in handcuffs this afternoon, and may have to apply for bail, as we understand it, in the Supreme Court tomorrow. He's reportedly to be held overnight and spend the night in custody. And so of course, this case continues tomorrow. And I suppose by that it is being said that he will seek bail, I suppose, before the Supreme Courts tomorrow. But that is the story right now, that another politician and another PLP politician, a senator in the upper house in the last administration, the Christie administration, Frank Smith, charged before the courts today on several counts of bribery and several counts of corruption, is what they said. And certainly we will be watching that with interest and giving you any updates that we may get from those authorities on this particular matter as we speak. But that is what it is right now. That makes it two politicians so far that have been brought before the courts on these charges of, I suppose, misconduct is really the substantive charge. And as a result of it, we are watching it with interest. And a lot of people are looking at it and saying they're kind of like, can't believe it, that these things are now happening. But of course, it is what it is. Now, of course, apart from all the politics that's been happening as far as the courts and the charges, not the charges, but the allegations made in the House of Assembly and elsewhere about all this misfeasance and poor management and the rest of it, there are some people who just can't stop talking, and they're talking and talking. I'll tell you this, notwithstanding that his own party is calling for him to resign forthwith and sit down and shut up. PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts is cussing the new government again. They can't hold back Bradley. Bradley Roberts is cussing them again. He says Roberts claims that the Minister administration is to blame for the stoppage of work at the point. And there's nothing going on there, he said, and people are crying out for work. The point should have been up and running, and work should be going on out there. This is at the Sheraton, British Colonials. You know, they call that now the point. Mr. Roberts claimed that the Minister administration is still feeling their way through and just don't know what to do. In the meantime, it is impacting Bahamians, he claims. He also accused the government of changing its tone on Bahama. He said the F&M's new tone these days on Bahama is proof of a reversal in their initial position on the project, and that the new government finds itself in great difficulty on what their real true position is. So Roberts is still talking, even though this week Phil Kalanis wrote in the newspapers that he should sit down and shut up and stop embarrassing what's left of the PLP party with his remarks, because they're not really in keeping with where the PLP, I suppose, wants to go. This was the indication by one Phil Kalanis in the newspapers earlier this week, but it didn't stop Bradley Roberts from shooting off in the mouth, and he continues to talk, and he's just talking now. You know, this is the defiant Big Bad Brad. Defiant. Talking about politics, though, as we bring you up to date here, because I've got guests here this evening, and my guests are going to be Paul Moss and I suppose Darvin Russell. They should be here by now, and perhaps delayed by a little rain. But the point is that we're going to be talking about a number of things that we feel may be some of the great points of interest that we as a country ought to be looking at and putting our attention on. And so that's going to happen in just a few minutes. But Immigration Minister Brent Simonet, of course, you know he's in charge. Brent Simonet is in charge of financial services, trade and industry, and immigration. And in this capacity, he's now Immigration Minister, Mr. Simonet, making an attempt, it appears, to get a handle on the immigration situation in the Bahamas. He has begun the process of taking stock of what this country has been doing the past 5 years under the you-know-who administration, Christie, the PLP. Great scrutiny is happening about the PLP. And up to April of 2012, some 3,331 citizenships were granted. 3,331 citizenships were granted up to April of 2012. It's a lot, right? Toward the end of the Christie administration, that rate actually increased by 1,969, meaning that the amount of individuals were reviewed for citizenship from 2012 to 2015. A total of 789 were actually approved in 2016. And for 2017, a total of 573 were approved for citizenship between January and April. So those are some of the numbers that you had been asking, and I had been making inquiries about this, and today Mr. Simonet released some information about where we are. He calls it taking an inventory look at this whole matter. According to Mr. Simonet, approvals for permanent residence permits, work permits, and spousal permits, and permits to reside were fairly consistent during the past 5 years with that of the previous years under the Free National Movement administration. The work permit average was pegged somewhere around between 1,000 to 1,500 per month. I want you to get that now. Slow down and get that. Put your head around that. Between 1,000 and 1,500 work permits were granted every month for 5 years. That's 60 months. That should come somewhere around 115 to 120 something thousand work permits given in the Bahamas in the past 5 years. Remember I told you that some weeks ago? Well, these are the numbers. And numbers don't lie. So if you're looking at 115,000 work permits granted just in the last 5 years, right? And you're looking at a labor force in the Bahamas that's somewhere around between 140, sometimes it fluctuates up to 150, 160, 180, but basically it's around 140. And with the downturn in the economy these days and everybody losing jobs, somewhere around 140. Could you imagine 115,000 work permits issued in the 5-year period when the employment rate of the labor force is somewhere around 140,000? That's a lot of people outside of the Bahamas working inside the Bahamas to the detriment of many Bahamians. You don't need to be a math expert or rocket science to figure that out. 115,000 work permits in this country. The average in 5 years every month between 1,000 to 1,500. I wonder why people ain't got no job. That's what happened. And of course, we're going to be watching those numbers because that is what reportedly happened on the Christie Watch. And certainly on this new FNM Watch on the Brent Simonet, people are going to be watching this with great interest. And no wonder why Bahamians don't have jobs, right? Because if you're going to give out a 1,000 to 1,500 work permits per month, well, you finish the rest of that. Serious stuff. Anyway, according to the information that I got today, the Minister's administration is looking to establish an independent board to review applications for citizenship to ensure that politicians don't abuse the situation. That's a good move, Minister. Hip, hip, hooray. Because these days with all the stuff that we see flying around with criminal activity and this arrest there and that arrest there, you want to make sure that everybody is squeaky clean and they are not doing anything untoward or anything perceived to be clandestine. And so Simonet, the Minister of Immigration, is saying that legislation to accommodate this idea is subject to Cabinet's discussions and may be ready by the time the Parliament resumes later this year. That's around in September. So by the time as they set the agenda and go back to the Parliament, they will know for sure if they're going to have this independent committee that's going to scrutinize and look over who's going to get work permits and who's going to get citizenship and et cetera, et cetera. Based on what Simonet told the media, there is a backlog. And this is the reason why it was really like pulling teeth trying to get information out of the Department of Immigration, except for whatever the minister may want to tease you with every now and then. But Simonet is saying that there is this backlog in the Department of Immigration, and he's attempting to determine the size of that backlog because he says that You could be between 1,000 to 10,000 people waiting on things at one given time, or any given time. He says senior staff can't help him. That's what he said. Someone had said that. Senior staff can't help me. The department is still very manual. He said a computerized system exists, but that the management of the computer system is not as developed as it should be. What a situation. Welcome to the Bahamas, you say? What a situation. So that's where we are on the immigration front, and there's more to talk about with that, more to talk about with that today, and more to come on it, because it's quite interesting. And as I said, we're going to be scrutinizing those numbers and see if we can bring some focus as to what are we really doing and how are we really going to deal with this immigration matter going forward, especially work permits and especially permanent residency. That's key. All right. I'm going to run to the break, and when I come back here this evening, we're going to talk with our guest who's coming in a short time. We're talking with Paul Moss and Darvin Russell from the fame of The Last Word. I brought them both in today. We had decided that we were going to talk about some things today, to talk about the overall picture, our current state of affairs, where we are in the nation and what we should be doing. And it's always good to get bright ideas, and we ask you to join in with us. 325-0235 or 6-325-0242 or 43, 325-0252 or 53 is how you can call me today. This is Hard Copy. There's more to come in a minute.
Driving on West Bay in rush hour? Hard. Getting a new car to enjoy the ride? Easy. Carting the kids around after school? Hard. Getting a car to fit them all? Easy. Get an easy auto loan from Commonwealth Bank. Super low rates, fast 24-hour approval, no loan fee, and no payments for 2 months. So come to Commonwealth Bank, and your next car is easy. Commonwealth Bank. Terms and conditions apply.
Transforming institutional investing, empowering Bahamians to save and invest, growing its business to create a strong and stable investment environment for generations to come. That's what CFAL has accomplished in its first 20 years. And that's what Bahamians can expect in the years to come. For at CFAL, we believe our past is a foundation for an even greater future. Call us today or visit cfal.com and seize your future.
Be sure to stay cool all year round, especially when those hot summer months roll in. Keep cool with Cool Tech. Located Tony Williams Darling Highway, Cool Tech is your affordable #1 air conditioning center. They install and service everything they sell. That means prompt, reliable service 24/7. Cool Tech, the only way to stay cool with guarantee. Call Cool Tech now at 341-5665.
If it moves, chances are Advantage Insurance can insure it. We offer a variety of coverage options for cars, SUVs, trucks, scooters, boats, and more. Our comprehensive auto insurance policy covers loss or damage due to collision, theft, fire, flood, or hurricane. Third-party coverage is also available. Call Advantage Insurance at 356-0285 or visit us on Collins Avenue today. Advantage Insurance, celebrating 20 years.
Based on the premise of anything you can do, we can do better in the Bahamas. The Bahamian Brewery is 100% Bahamian owned and operated. Our thanks to you, Bahamas, for supporting our family of beers and beverages. Sands, Sands Light, High Rock, Strong Back, Bush Crack, Pink Sands, and Triple B. Brewed and bottled here and consumed right here in our Bahamas. Now that's truly Bahamian. The Bahamian Brewery encourages all of its fans to drink in moderation.
Do you feel trapped and unable to move because of debt? Are you trying to meet your monthly obligations but still falling behind? Then what you need is a fresh start. BOB's Fresh Start Debt Consolidation Loan will combine your existing debts into one easy monthly payment, restoring your financial freedom and getting you back on track with a built-in savings plan. Talk to us today about your BOB Fresh Start Debt Consolidation Loan. BOB, your bank of solutions.
The Show Bistro, Nassau Street, is serving up a delightful food fair this Independence. Be sure to make it a special occasion during the entire month of July and feast like a proud Bahamian at the show. Boiled and stewed grouper, served with piping hot yellow grits and Johnny cake, seasoned to perfection. Signature stewed cow, succulent and delicious as only the show can do it. The Show Bistro, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner with an Independence flair for the entire month of July. Come dine in with us and enjoy the good times. The Show Bistro, open every day including holidays from 7 a.m. until. Serving seafood and Bahamian delights galore all day only at the show. Nassau Street. Takeout orders also available. Telephone 323-4400.
Why I'm bursting with pride. The best choice I've ever made is when I came back to the Water and Sewage Corporation. It felt like the more I shower, the more I wanted to shower. I felt like I was on top of a mountain and the pure water of the sky just flowing on your body.
The Water and Sewage Corporation's offer of 50% off sign-up services is back for residents in New Providence and the Family Islands. Offer valid for a limited time only. Some restrictions may apply. Sign up today. The Water and Sewage Corporation. Committed to growth, committed to quality.
Bethel Baptist Church, the Mother Church on Meeting Street, presents its annual anniversary service. 227 years anniversary service. The place, Bethel Baptist Church, Meeting Street. The date, July 30th, 2017. The time, 10 a.m. It's a live television broadcast on cable 211. Your speaker for the day, Reverend Dr. Timothy Stewart. He's the pastor of Bethel Baptist Church, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of excitement as they present their 227th anniversary service. The theme this time around, In Pursuit of Greatness, taken from Luke 22:24-30. Special music and special performances by Bethel's choir, Bethel's praise team, and Bethel's dancers. All are invited to attend this Sunday, the 30th of July. Bethel Baptist Church, 227th anniversary service. You ought to be there.
At Ron's Electric Motors, they repair and rewind all major brands of electric motors, including water pumps, generators, and the generator's back end, welding machines, electric lifts, air compressors, battery chargers, and more. They're equipped to handle up to 850 kilowatts and rewind up to 450 horsepower motors. They're conveniently located on the corner of Wolf and Clarence Roads and are open weekdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturdays till noon. They offer 24 hours emergency assistance. You can reach them at 242-356-0249.
We have a situation here on the ground. I can start by saying it like this.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down.
I hope this is a working vacation, and I ain't speaking only but cabinet.
I want to ask my government haste and forthwith to come out of the holes. But I want to say to my government again, the tail's out. Don't be like the rat running the hole and you leave your tail out. And I repeat, my government, come out of the hole. Thank you.
I know. What you mean if I know who that is? People don't know who that is.
I got a word for my government.
Gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down.
When you campaign on a promise and present a budget that does not include the people who we thought you were talking about, the small people who really got you in office, it put a big question in your mind.
It's like a very confused environment.
I'll stand my ground, and I won't back down.
All you former challengers who were so readily reached by phone, who done change your blasted number, be coming for you.
Well, I know what's right. I got just one life. In a world that keeps on pushing me around, but I stand my ground, and I won't back down.
Welcome back to Hot Copy on this rainy Thursday. A 90% chance of rain in the forecast tonight. If you're wondering about the weather, you better stay indoors or you better take an umbrella or raincoat wherever you're going tonight. If you're that fellow who makes them ghost moves in the night, it's a lot of rain coming down. Welcome back. Darvin Russell is with me here this evening, and so is Paul Moss. They're both here. My two, I call them the two bright boys who are looking at any number of things from an economical point of view in our country and business and all that. And a lot of things are interesting that you really would not see in the papers if you are not a real avid reader of the newspapers. You won't see a lot of things. A lot of things are happening right now in the newspapers from a business perspective and from a church. Churches, can I get your attention, please? Because this is quite interesting what's happening. And there are people who, in fact, do read the newspapers and take a look at all the government notices and everything else. And that's what we call reading the newspaper, looking at everything and trying to figure out what goes on here. But, of course, this evening on the show, we want to bring a couple of things to your attention as we talk about business and good governance and a whole lot of other things as we try to help the government focus and get on some areas that they ought to be getting on. But for the most part, I want to welcome Paul Moss here today. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Pleasure to be here.
Paul Moss is a noted attorney, as you know, and of course, Darvin Russell, an economist and businessman. Darvin, how are you today?
Fantastic, Steve. Good evening, Bahamas.
Good. I just thought that we should get together today and talk about some things because, you know, everybody's been talking about who gonna get jailed and who gets arrested and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I want us to see if we can get this country talking about how we can grow this economy and how some things are going to happen. And how we've got to be aware of what is going on now as far as taxes that may be levied against a lot of people in this country, including NGOs and areas like that. And it's quite interesting. Paul, I know that there is something that speaks today in the newspapers in the government notices section that was in the sports section of the Daily that talked about churches in our country that may, in fact, have to cough up some cash when it comes to them operating as a non-profit organization. And, you know, I'm saying this slowly so that those who are listening could perhaps cue in on this because this is quite interesting. I've never seen that before. Is this the first time that you're seeing something like that? And what does this mean? What it means that non-profit organizations like the churches that do things, they would have to pay some monies, taxes. What is it? What does it really mean?
What it is I think you're correct that I certainly have never seen this before. But this notice came out today from the Registrar General's office under the auspices of the Attorney General.
Yes.
Directing all nonprofit companies to do a number of things, among which is to produce financial statements on the activities of their entity. And we know that churches generally don't do that. And other private entities, nonprofits, don't do that either. But this is threatening them with $10,000 fines and imprisonment.
Is that right?
And everything. Yes, this is what it's doing. And when you read it, you can tell that it has no basis in law.
Well, how could they do something like that?
This is
from the Attorney General's office. The Registrar General comes through the Attorney General.
The Attorney General has got it wrong. But I see that his signature is not on this. This is the Registrar of the Department of Registration, Registrar General.
I think this is a misprint. They print this before anybody scrutinized it.
Clearly, they must have not gotten the advice of the Attorney General because I can't see the Attorney General sending out such a circular. You're saying to people that you have to produce financials when these are private entities. Private companies do not have to produce anything to anybody. And this is what they're saying, that this regulation that they now have is mandating it. And when you read the regulation, what is very curious is that this regulation came into force in 2014.
Yeah.
And it says that the registrar could ask for financial statements. However, he or she may only do so if they suspect that the nonprofit is financing terrorism.
Is that right?
That's correct. And so when you look at the paper and you see all of these churches and all of the churches, people need to look at the newspaper because I'm sure that there are churches in the
Is
newspaper.
Montaba's name inside there?
Montable is there.
Is Bethel Baptist name in there?
Yes.
Is Salem name inside there?
All of them are there.
All of the churches are there.
All the churches.
Church of God included.
Yeah,
everybody.
Everyone is there. And what that's saying to me,
my goodness,
is that these are people or churches who are sponsoring terrorism.
Because that the reference is in association with terrorism.
That's what it says.
We know better. We know our
And
churches
I
don't do
just
no
want to
such
read
thing.
it very, very quickly. And speaks. I'm talking. This is the act that I'm reading from. Is the. I want to give you the full name. It's the company's nonprofit organizations regulations 2014. And if you go to section 14, section 13, it really speaks to when the registrar may request such financial statement. And I'll just read 13 subparagraph 2. The registrar may give notice under paragraph 1 only where it reasonably requires the record specified in the notice to assess the extent, if any, to which the registered nonprofit organization is being used to assist terrorist financing. That's the only basis in which they can
actually act.
And so, as I read it, every entity that's inside this paper, and it's 4 pages.
That means every church inside there.
Well, they got all kinds of things inside there. Because you have people.
This is in the sports section today of the Nassau Guardian. Am I right?
That's correct.
And once
Tucked away.
It's tucked away. You can see it. You have to open up the sports section and you'll see some government notices.
Right.
And it's 4 pages of it.
Four pages.
And it deals with these people who, in fact, nonprofit organizations who, in fact, have come under scrutiny based on the Registrar General's notice in the papers this morning. And this could only happen, as Paul has said, and Paul is an attorney, this could only happen if, in fact, there is suspicion of somebody being in affiliation with some terrorist organization, and monies are flowing through those. But that brings up another point, Paul, because maybe there's a view that this is something from some international convention that they adopted, to put into our newspapers through our Attorney General's office, that they're putting all and sundry on notice. But it doesn't say that. It's just this is what the act is.
Correct. I think you may be correct on that. I believe that this is part of what I call the outsiders.
Yeah.
Trying to intervene in a country that hails.
You think they think that we will take monies from terrorist organizations? And
no, I know that they know that we won't. I think this is their way of trying to get back at a country that has rejected the advances that they put forward to us. And so they're saying to you now.
Now, you may be onto something, Paul. I don't mean to cut you off, but you may be onto something. I remember the church vehemently against some things that came down from the United Nations the other day. Something, a gender equality bill, was it? Something to do with the Article 4 of that particular bill.
So-called gender equality.
So churches, they was making noise, a lot of noise. And that, I don't know. I'm just saying that's a speculation by me. I'm just saying everything is relative. The old politician Hubert Ingram always said that, something may happen this week that you can't connect to what's going to happen next week. But when you look at next week's happenings and you look back at last week happening, you can connect.
Well, that is what I suspect is going on here, because you're saying to these people, this is a very highly religious country.
Very.
And the church plays a major role when the matters of concern coming before the nation in terms of referendum.
Matters of state, the church has a big say.
It plays a big role. And now you're saying to them that if you do not comply, we could not only imprison you, we could fine you, and we could stop you from being registered. And you have historical churches like the one you just advertised about their big event.
Yeah, the oldest Baptist church in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Who is now sponsoring
and in
terrorism.
the region. Yeah.
Sponsoring terrorism according to this thing.
This is crazy.
It absolutely makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I'm sure.
I'm looking for a retraction and a correction on that matter from the Attorney General office.
There's no doubt that there'll be a retraction on this. Because even the sections quoted here, they are talking about things that really do not make their case. Private entities are exempt from financial statements being published or being demanded by by the registrar. They're exempt from it.
Hmm.
And these are private entities. And, they have the Salvation Army here. They got all kind of nonprofits here. And one thing that is notably absent from the nonprofits are the political parties. Now, they should be front and center.
That's right, because we are concerned about their campaign.
Because we're very concerned about it. And we know that
so you're telling me that the politicians have been exempted. Political parties.
But the churches.
For the churches are being scrutinized.
Scrutinized.
Well, can I get an amen?
Amen.
Darvin,
Amen.
Under penalty.
This is a serious thing. Now, something is wrong with that. I'm going to take that and say I place it right here on my agenda to take another further look at it. But this is the preliminary situation that Paul has brought to my attention here. It's quite interesting, and I see it. It's a government publication of notice. Government notices, Office of Attorney General, Registrar General Department. And maybe they ran ahead of themselves and published that before time.
Well,
or didn't get the proper.
But it's curiously signed by the acting Registrar General. One would have thought that, this would have been something more defined, could have been, specialized in a way where you could speak to people, nonprofit companies, privately.
Yeah.
To try to suggest to them these things. But you can't come out publicly and demand financial statements. I'm telling you that I have a few of those nonprofits that I have formed for things that I'm interested in. And I can tell you categorically, there's no way I'm submitting anything to them because they're even asking you to submit the date of your incorporation when they are the ones who gave the incorporation and the ones who licensed you.
Yes.
I mean,
they have that
absolutely
information. That's where it's registered at the Register
And I can
General.
speak about this department because this department is very burdened in terms of the workload that they have. The people and the staff work very hard and can't get all the things done because they're overworked and overburdened.
Yeah.
And now you're creating another backlog.
Another bureaucracy here.
Another bureaucracy to try to get it out. And I suspect that the reason why they want these things is they want to see what your entity is doing so they can find a way to tax it.
You think that's the bottom line? You think they're trying to really bring about some new taxes here?
Absolutely. That's the only thing this could be for.
Yeah, well, this particular administration, and I don't know if this is a carryover from the last administration. This may be very, very well a carryover from it by terms of what they were planning on doing. And so this may have gone out premature without the full scrutiny of the President Attorney General. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But what I'm saying here is that with all of these things happening here, you would believe that this should not have been something that is just published. This should have been talked about, and because a lot of churches are going to make noise about this.
A lot of churches, and guess what?
And there's going to be defiance by a lot of them.
Whose name don't even appear on the list. And they're saying then that you're not even recognized, you're not incorporated. But let me say this to a lot of people who may be concerned. The Constitution of the Bahamas guarantees fundamental rights and privileges and freedoms to Bahamians and anyone who's in this country. One of which is freedom of assembly.
Yeah.
You don't have to be licensed by any government agency to assemble.
Very true.
The Constitution guarantees you that right. Okay?
And nothing is more superior than the Constitution.
Constitution.
Yeah.
So if a group of us today decide in this room that we're going to form an association for the advocacy of talk shows in the Bahamas, you don't tell me I have to register with you. I don't. And don't tell me I have to produce financials to you because I don't.
Yeah. Little quandary it seems, but what do you think is going to come out of it, Paul? I mean, do you think that people have picked up to that this morning, or they've?
Well, I spoke to a few pastors
today.
I spoke to a few pastors today, and there's no way that they're complying with this. They're not going to comply. I mean, because when you think about
how many churches on this list? About 400 or 500?
Oh man, Steve! I mean, you look down the page. One page may have 400 or 500.
So all of the churches, them?
All the churches, and other non-profits. I see the Salvation Army here. I see other things for like sickness, etc. Those entities are here. Youth clubs. It's a number of things that are here.
It can't be that the government is looking to make some money by taxing us. I mean, you heard them say that we are going to be looking at every nook and cranny to try to get some monies as far as the revenue collection is concerned. They've already made promises that they're going to do a better job of revenue collection.
But that's the wrong nook and the wrong cranny. that's the problem, Steve.
What do you think of it, Darvin? I mean, this is quite interesting. I mean, I would have never looked at that the way that Paul did and scrutinize it and see the problems with it, the pitfalls of this whole publication today in the papers. What are your thoughts?
No, to me, I mean, it seems as though it's probably just a revenue enhancing initiative. That's how
You think that's what
how
it is,
I see
bottom
it.
line?
Yeah, and I think those churches
church?
are going to comply.
You think they're saying the church should now pay something after all these years of having freebies?
Look, I think from the government's perspective, they're going to beat the bushes for any dollar that they can get, and if fair is what works, then he who forks over the money, that's incremental revenue that they probably didn't expect. But Paul may be right on this one. You expect a retraction in short order, and if the churches make the rightful noise that they probably should, based on the wording and the verbiage in the release, I'm certain that the government doesn't want to get in a fight. This government doesn't want to get in a fight.
Not with the church.
Well, they're accusing them of
They
financing
said they want to work
terrorism.
with. That's a serious thing. I mean, that's what the inference is. If you have to scrutinize them,
if you have to
get
publish
this
it,
money.
that's what the inference says. Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. So let me ask you something, gentlemen. Looking at this, knowing what we know, and knowing that the country is in dire straits and needs to have revenue collection, needs to have taxes, we might as well throw in one time, Darvin and Paul, this whole bit about this new idea about collection of real property taxes and all of these things that are now coming to the fore. A lot of people have been making calls and
The
saying,
churches are generally exempt from those.
yes,
They won't be if
that I
that's what they're
understand.
trying to do.
But I'm saying on the whole, it seems like there's a thrust right now to go and find the money from anywhere and from everyone as best that could be found. And I'm saying people have been concerned, Darvin, about the collection or this thing about real property tax, and they're not so sure what the criteria is as far as if you have a house that's $250,000 or below $250,000, you are not to pay real property tax or whatever it is. And some people are saying, no, it doesn't matter what size. In fact, there's a case right now where another of your colleagues, our colleague, is now fighting before the courts for somebody whose house is just a low-cost government house, and they have been to pay this real property tax and the rest of it, and they have to pay. And people have been saying all along, look, I thought that we were exempted if we were not up to $250,000. Anything up to $250,000, anything over that is taxable.
Yeah.
But anything under that cannot be what you're paying tax. And so houses in Baytown and all around the area.
But Steve, you got to remember now, you're dealing with the island of New Providence.
Yes.
This is not some family island.
Yes.
And if you look at it, the only place in this island where you could find property with a value of say $50,000 is in Nassau Village, and no one really goes to buy that because it's always replete with title issues.
Title issues, right?
And so when you go down and say in the Grove area, you're talking $120,000 for a lot. And if you put right now, that's vacant,
right?
And if you put a structure on it, it is going to propel you over the threshold of $250,000.
And Steve, Paul is right, because one of the challenges we have is how do these properties get reassessed?
Yes, so that's the other thing.
You know, what is the appeals process? You know, last year you paid $300. This year they bill you for $1,200. How does that happen?
Yeah.
It's like BEC. You just pay it or they cut you out.
It can't just be like that. I mean, you're right, and that's how it's approached. But the Bahamian people, it's owed to them for an explanation to be given, for something to be properly explained to them as to why this is now the case.
Yes.
I believe people want to pay their tax, and I believe people would pay something on it. But when you're looking at people, the internal revenue, telling you that they're going to be coming to you from, they never did an assessment, they never did an evaluation of your home, they never did an appraisal. You don't know what the house now is valued. But they have their numbers in their head, only them know. And they writing letters saying that this is what you owe. And then they said, you had never paid nothing. So we believe, based on our record, this house been here from 1980. So we can go all the way back to 1980, and we can give you a $500 thing every year. And that brings forward this $56,000. I mean, listen, who is going to really swallow that without a fight? You see my point?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't there be some kind of explanation, either by television advertisement, by talk radio show visitations from these people, and explain it to the people? This is what we are doing, and these are the people who are exempted. These are not the people who are exempted, because this got all kind of people up in stitches right now about what is it that they're supposed to pay.
Yeah, because you are living in a country that's very taxed. People are very taxed. on every turn, and they seem to only know how to raise revenue by taxing you
Yeah,
more.
well, that's what it is.
But it has a diminishing return, because if you continue to tax people, you're going to find that they're not going to be able to pay at all. And instead of making more taxes, you're going to lose taxes because you're going to tax business out of
existence.
Out of existence.
And people evade taxes. That's an economic principle.
So you're telling me, yeah, you're right. That's just human nature. People do want to pay. But Darvin, you're saying to me that houses in Baintown, because this is the Island of New Providence, as Paul explained, you can pay up to $120,000, $140,000 for a piece of property in Angliston.
Yes, because those areas, Steve, are not necessarily residential areas anymore. These are commercial areas.
Well, see, that's a different thing. If you say that this is a commercial area, I can understand that. But listen, but you know and I know that traditionally, okay, people have owned those little plots of land and they've been building their little cardboard house there.
Yes.
Come on now, you telling me that you expect internal revenue to go knock on these people's door or send them something in the mail and say, look here, this is what you owe. You pay it or we can come for you.
Yes.
No.
But I mean, they ought not. But I'm saying to you, though, that what has happened is in these areas that have been traditionally homesteads that we have all come from.
Yes.
People have moved out. They have turned them into businesses.
I see.
I mean, I remember years ago, driving down Prince Charles was a residential.
Yes.
I mean, you put a house there now, you look like you out of the whack. You can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just commercial, and that's what has happened.
Yeah.
All over. All over this island.
See, the trouble is, Devin, is that we have not zoned this place properly. So there's residences
no respect for the zoning.
and businesses mix up all through this place.
I didn't even know we had zoning.
No, we have zoning through town planning. What do you mean? We ain't that backwards,
No, the reason why Darvin is saying that, right, is because you could get a business license today.
Yes.
For Peace Radio right here on Gibbs Lane.
Right.
And move next door to try to get a business license for a similar business. And they say, oh, we got to go to town planning to get approval.
Yeah.
I mean, you go figure that.
Yeah.
So it means it's all ad hoc.
We need to, that's what I'm saying. We're talking business here, and a lot of people want to do things. Like right now, I believe the Bahamian people are now bursting at the seams as far as trying to get new business, and they're excited. They want some things to happen. They want to do some things, but it's all gray and shadowy as far as what do we do? What's the proper direction? How do we do this? We want to talk about ease of business and the rest of it.
Yeah.
How does this become possible when in fact we're not so sure what the zoning is? What's the approval by town planning for businesses? Who's supposed to be on what side of the road? How come we have a hodgepodge of church bar, restaurant, this next thing? How do we do that? I mean, shouldn't there be some kind of bringing people together and deciding that this is what we're going to do? Or is the local government the answer so that we can know definitively that because local government say this is how it's going to go?
Oh no, I wouldn't go local government with an issue like that. This is more national, more strategic than that.
Yeah.
But I do think that you have to take into account, to Paul's point, historically residential areas now, because of the growth in the island of New Providence especially, these have now become commercialized. Similarly, so you have to have a way to grandfather those issues in, and only in the sense that there are new builds or extensive renovations do they now come under the new zoning apparatus. But I do think because Nassau was not a traditional planned city, you have to take into account how the city has organically grown. It has been pretty much very unwielding. You accept that nuance, right? But you can plan around that. There are urban planners, which is a subspecialty of architecture, that this is what they do. You look and you map the city and you say, this is New Providence 2100. What do we want the city to evolve to? Not based on where you are. What should the city of Nassau, the island of New Providence, look like in 100 years? And you just gingerly kind of walk your way to that, as opposed to trying to bludgeon people from one state being residential to another state. And I think if you had that kind of planning when a building gets demolished or somebody moves out, then that takes a lot of planning. But you have to be patient with it, right? We talked about Dr. Minnis's idea, for example, with this over-the-hill revitalization program that he has, or has talked about, his economic free zone. That's a great place to start. You cordon off this section of town and you say, look, this is going to be the model for future inner city development in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I guarantee you, if you're successful at that, people will change on their own. They don't need you to force the change.
Yeah.
They will conform because they see that the neighbor across the street now, whose house and whose street used to look like this, now looks like this. We should be able to get together and do the same.
But it has to be where that is defined, because as is being proposed, as I see it, it's a zone. So if you got a business there, hey, you go put up a business. You got a house, you go put up a house. And so it distorts whatever it is you're trying to do.
I see your point.
When in fact, you want to really, in my view, you want to really get homesteads going, because the cost of housing in the Bahamas is just out of the reach.
Yes.
And so-called low-cost housing is not low cost anymore. But if you have a zone, a duty-free zone, where people are able to now go and put up shop because they can do it for free, essentially, it means you're going to drive out the homes, because it's going to be tempting for them to sell to somebody so they can have this duty-free concession for 5, 10 years, whatever the case.
Well, you hit it on the head, Darvin. The whole thing is planning, proper planning, and proper planning throughout the entire sector. Whether we're talking about planning residential areas in this new focus of where we want to go in the Bahamas, whether we're talking about business districts, that kind of stuff, because right now it's just hodgepodge is not good. You know, a fella told me one time ago, he says, Steve, you see this road here, Bernard Road? I say, yes, sir. So you see this Bernard Road? Say, see how this curvy and twist and turn and go that way with all this curve in it? Say, well, that's how the donkey cart used to drive. He say when they came and modernizing this place, they built the road just how the donkey cart used to go to avoid the rocks.
Yeah, it's like
the donkey cart wide on. So you laugh, but I'm saying if that's the concept that they had then, and we have not really reform ourselves to come to the point where we need to really soberly plan these kinds of things, we'll have more of that. Look at Carmichael Road. Let's look at Carmichael Road, for instance. Carmichael Road was a residential area for the most part. Carmichael Road has now become City 2000. Right. And just what that name, by the way, is copywritten by Jeff Scavala, the late Jeff Scavala. He was the first one. Yes, sir. Okay. He called that City 2000. That is not something that people. City 2000 was coined by John Jefferson Scavala, the DJ from ZNS who worked at More FM. City 2000. Now, City 2000, okay, is all kind of stuff. You see the point? If they had decided this was going to be a business district, especially on the main roads, then we would know that, okay, this is what this is. And then the commercial property pool in context will be I suppose, more expensive than the residential side of it. If the side streets are residential, and then people could sell their main street property and say, this is a commercial value for this.
Well, that certainly that's what has happened. Yeah. That is what has happened.
Yeah, but it's not regulated to a point where we understand that this is the deal. It's still hodgepodge in that a residence was here, a business came here tomorrow, that kind of stuff. And then you run into this problem now where the inland revenue people are saying, well, this place here, this property got to be valued. This is a little residence, the fella got 9. He said, this got to be valued $250,000 off the top, because the fella next to you is the gas station.
That's correct.
The fella next to you is the gas station. He's $450,000.
Yeah, and he raises the value of the property.
And the Wendy's on the other side of you.
Boy, you lose big.
Yeah.
You see the point? But it's quite interesting. I thought I'd bring up that particular point with inland revenue, because I really want to see them come out of the shadows and openly decide and say, this is what we are doing. I mean, they owe that to the Bahamian people. Now, of course, I can tell you that a lot of white Bahamians, and I hate to say that like that, but I do that just to make sure I can give you the distinction here. Many of them go and they pay their property tax and all that. That's an automatic thing that they do. I don't know. It's just that's what they do. Maybe it's because their homes are so big and wealthy, they want to make sure that they straight. I don't know. But they do that. And I'm told by researchers who were in that inland revenue for quite some time that, no, we don't really want to pay that. We don't really pay that. We don't look at it. We don't take it seriously. And that is why there's a big minus when it comes to the income of the country, the revenue that we're bringing in. We're not paying those kinds of things. And so I'm saying that I believe that more people would be led to pay and do a good job of it if, in fact, it's understood clearly. by many people or by most of us.
If it's deemed to be fair as
If
well.
it's deemed to be fair too.
Deemed to be fair, honestly, clearly, and that is the job of those who seek to lead. You have to explain to the people, your people, what these things are for and how it's going to be used, and they can see the benefit of it. Otherwise, it's going to be holding and hauling.
We're talking with Paul Moss today, and of course, Darvin Russell, and I like to call them my twin towers of economic prowess and growth, because that's what we're after. That's what we're hoping to see happen in the country. And I think that both of them have great ideas along the lines as to what we can do to move some things and grow some things in our economy. And yes, the country is looking for all bright ideas. And so, you ought to be able to call us and feel free to contribute to our conversation here today. But there are other issues that we have on the table here. And I suppose, Darvin, there are some things that you have from your perspective as to what we ought to be doing if we're going to really soberly get a handle on this interest of getting business moving. And I know that Grand Bahama is a part of what you talked about before. And all of us are close to Grand Bahama insofar as we'd like to see that economy down there take off and make some things happen so that people can go back to their homeland and try to get things moving. What are your thoughts along the lines? There's growth as far as Dr. Hubert Minnis is concerned. He has plans for ecotourism and those kinds of things and maritime affairs and all that. But is that sufficient enough to get the engines of Grand Bahama going in particular?
Well, Steve, I've been pondering this and thinking about this for quite some time. And as I mentioned to you the other day, successive governments around the world have always focused most of their political capital on dealing with macroeconomic factors and strategies. And for most of us, we may not know it by that term, but macroeconomic strategy deals with interest rate and monetary policy. In that regard, exchange control policy deals with government spending, deals with taxation. So those are the big buckets that we know about. So governments historically tinker along what you pay in taxes. They tinker with in the United States, the Fed funds rate, in the Bahamas, the discount rate that the central bank offers. They talk a little bit about exchange control relaxation in our language. But these policies, for the most part in the Bahamas, have not been able, despite some of their significant initiatives, they've not been able to actually give us the sustained growth or the level of growth that we need. So my perspective is, I think the Bahamas is ripe now, as some other countries in the world are, but I'm talking only about us now, to focus more on micro strategy. And what microeconomics seeks to do is, for lack of a better word and for the benefit of the audience listening, is to connect the dots. So to say, what are those impediments that is stopping the macro policy from being as effective as we expect it to be? Why is it not trickling down, to use the term that Ronald Reagan coined in the 80s when he was president? Why is this not happening? So if you think about your body, right, and doctors say, I think tendons connect bones to bones. The micro is the tendons to the bones, which is macro. How do we join these things together so that knee can work, so that joint functions most effectively? And I say you have to look very pragmatically now at your government policy. Paul makes the point that there is a lot that can be done with law, but policy allows you to do things much quicker and sometimes even more effectively. And so if you think about the implementation of these things, for example, what is it when you sit down that prevents 1,000 businesses from opening a week in the Bahamas? Well, when we go and look, Paul has alluded to this on previous shows, the length of time it takes you to get a business license. One, this is micro policy now. The cost of doing business, this is micro policy now. The cost of energy, because micro policy is looking at individual sectors, individual businesses, and trying to remove these impediments to growth. So what are those missing pieces that allow somebody who can see at a 50,000-foot level to see where these bottlenecks are naturally and unclog them? So you sit down and you say, We know from the ranking from the United Nations that we have fallen in competitiveness from number what to number Y.
Mm-hmm.
That has happened because it now takes 7 days. It used to take 3 to get a business license.
See the point.
It used to take
The ease of doing
$50.
business is more difficult.
Now it takes $150. Nobody seems to know why I need you to come and inspect my premises when you've never done that in 7 years and I've been in business. I can't get an appointment. It takes 3 months. I can't get the report from you for me to go send to XYZ. I need a certificate of good standing, but that's predicated on me paying my national insurance
and all the rest of it.
But you haven't sent me a statement about national insurance. Nobody is picking up the phone to talk to me because according to my records, I'm current, and you're sending me a bill back from 2007. All of these are things that when you have people that clog the system, that prevent the growth that we're talking about. So these are the things that we have to pay particular attention to. Another thing that I think would be very helpful for us is if you look at the University of the Bahamas, in most countries, universities are almost job creation machines. They have professors, they have great research, they have things and that lead to advances in technology that can be monetized. We don't have an innovation center at the University of the Bahamas. We don't have one anywhere actually in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We should have an
innovation center.
Yeah, an innovation center. Harvard has probably one of the most famous ones. So it's basically you create a physical space on a college or university campus. Group of private business people, group of college professors, collaborative research that comes together that says, in a predictive way, let's look at these particular areas of growth and see where the Bahamas can place itself, either regionally, locally, nationally, internationally. How can we position ourselves to be the best at a particular thing? How can we create more technological companies that benefit the Caribbean? Because nobody's really looking at the Caribbean. The big regions of the world aren't really paying attention. But there's a lot of money to be made.
The Chinese are paying attention.
The Chinese are paying attention, right? You look at things like that and you say, okay, this group of students has been working on a pilot for XYZ technology. This allows us now, for example, I was tossing this out to a friend of mine and we were having a chit chat. I said, why is it, simply speaking, that you can't have an app for all customs forms on your phone? Why is it that by the time you touch down,
this will become a part of the innovation center
so this
that
is
you're talking about
this
now.
is one of the first things that they launch. So a customs related app. So you type into your C13 form on your phone, and as soon as you get off the airplane, it wirelessly updates into customs system. You get your receipt on your phone, you pay on your phone, and you walk through customs like a tourist because you've already covered that. The bill has already been paid. They can randomly inspect you to see if what you said on your virtual form was accurate in case you're trying to say you only spend $30 when you spend $300. You can do that. That does not change that. But it eliminates the long lines. It allows customs to process a whole lot more people within the space of an hour. You need fewer customs officers. This is all about productivity and enhancement of revenue. So that's just one example that we can raise.
How far are we from there?
Well,
I
think it speaks for itself. I think when you look at it, you in other airports, they have, to Darvin's point, goods to declare, goods not to declare. And I've gone through many airports this week. And in our system, though, it's like they treat you with suspect.
Yes.
That you are not going to tell the truth. You are going to try to deceive them. And they try to open up every bag. Every bag. And so it retards the system and it causes you to lose productivity and you lose revenue.
Yes.
Because quite frankly, what he is suggesting does not require them to go in Parliament to pass a law to make it happen.
Absolutely not.
And this is the point. The point is that you can't sit back until September to make this country move. You have to get on with it and using those kinds of ideas that Darvin spoke about. Because if you want to relax the ease of business and make things smoother, you have to find out why is it taking 3 months to get a business license?
Yeah.
Why is that?
No one has really sat
you
down
look
and
at it
really penetrated
cut it out.
Yeah.
Listen, back in the day, we have regressed, right? Because when I was downtown, I was on Frederick Street, business license unit was right there. And I'm telling you, we walked in there and we waited and walked out with the license. That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s. Now, I mean, it's
You got to make sure that you have paid your national insurance, and they have to see that. If that is the hang up, and they will go through their system and say, I didn't see nothing for one payment for one staff member back in 3 years ago.
But
And
Steve,
you
are referring to a renewal of a license.
Yes, that's true.
We're talking about start-up business where national insurance should not even apply. Particularly, but they look back at the individual and say, oh, well, you have to pay, you didn't pay, whatever. That's not the criteria. The business license unit should be about putting people in business. National insurance ought to be about enforcing their laws, and they operate separately.
But you know why they put it together and amalgamated? It's because their thing is that they believe that, and this is because of the suspicion factor again, Bahamians can't be trusted.
Yes.
They too wicked. They too cheap. And not only that, they are corrupt. And that's the thinking. See, you got to understand, this is the culture of our nation. Bishop Gomez and them, when they did the crime report back in, it must have been 97 or somewhere around there. They says, we are steeped in a culture of total dishonesty, careless regard for law and order. Let's say social norms and ills, we don't know nothing about it. This is what the damning commission, the Blue Ribbon Commission by Dr. Gomez, this is what they wrote. So when you look at that kind of thing and you see people are now saying, yes, boy, we suspicious of Paul them. They see them, look at them. They say, check them, yeah? They got a couple things stick down that suitcase. They're not looking at the productivity and the speed of process and the efficiency. That's far be. They want to catch you so they can, and you know why they want to catch you? They want to embarrass you, man.
And the thing about
they want to say, look at you, man. You know better than this. Look at you got this toaster down.
And because of that, people are very careful to make sure that they do declare properly. Exactly. Because they know they're out to get this. So when you come through, you make sure you declare.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal to declare because the reality is this. When you look at the ports that get customs revenue, the airport is a joke compared to the seaport.
Oceans, yeah.
Very true.
It's a joke.
Very true.
I mean, the most that they would take annually in that airport, maybe $5 million. Yeah. Maybe $5 million. And you're talking about millions of people who come through. Well, I shouldn't say that. Hundreds of thousands of Bahamians that go through because tourists, they just let walk through.
Yeah.
And it's so embarrassing, really, when you see them come, and the tourists walk through, but you opening up your stuff, showing all of your wares to everybody.
Yeah. It's a serious thing.
Stephen Covey calls it a low trust versus a high trust culture. If you just look at the way in which the organs of government function, we can only trust this set of customs officers. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make your life an inconvenience. You're going to have to go from this building to that building to this building, get it stamped here, bring it here, do the process here,
checks and balances,
and then pay. Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. Because only these two windows you could use to pay your money. Because God forbid all the customs officer, the system only trusts them too. All the other customs officers, the 60 here, we can't let all 60 of them take money because God forbid that could speed up service, and we don't want you to speed up service, and that could make the reconciliation too difficult. We can't figure out how to do that, and that means 58 more people could be thieving.
Right on. So your whole point is that we need an innovation center. Obviously, we need to have that set aside physically at the College of Bahamas, University of the Bahamas, and come up with concepts and stuff, that initiatives that we can, in fact, make them, implement them into what we are doing here.
Yes.
And you talk about policies. This is where the policies come in. You don't need legislation to create a policy to make this thing happen. And I asked the question earlier, how far are we from that? And I saw there was a pause, but the point is, we could be very far from it, or we could be very close to it. It depends upon the mindset of an individual or the mindset of those who are now in the threshold of government.
You're right. You're dead right, because this is why I say the leaders now have to want to, if I'm in a ministry, having worked all of my life in a private environment, I expect that kind of fluidness to go through.
Yeah.
So once you get there, you see, well, there's this red tape, the backlog that causing you. You say, hey, let's cut this down. It's not necessary for this to go this direction.
Yes.
It comes this way, and we're out of here. We want to please the customer. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, you got to get back to basics, eh?
And see, Steve, one of the things that prevents our innovation, sometimes is this. I tell people, Bahamians, we're gonna die on this sinking ship being polite. Because sometimes you just have to have frank and honest conversation and be introspective. When you look at it, the way we think about change and innovation, we say you know what? If we go do something like that, wonder how much people could lose their jobs in customs. Oh, we ain't doing that no more.
Yeah, you're right.
We ain't doing that no more. Because if we
but
implement that,
see,
right?
that's the political side.
No,
of
that's not
everything.
only the political side, because that's a lot of Bahamians thinking. So my cousin is working customs. You know, she just get that job. Man, but if they do that, 3 more of them could lose their job. And instead of saying how much that speeds up the flow of goods, people, and revenue, how much that improves the efficiency with which we operate, we always assume that money stays static. It doesn't. Just because you lose your job at one entity doesn't mean that the economy doesn't create another job. You've now freed up money that was tied up in a government system that has been inefficient into hopefully the more private sector system.
But not only that, because we tend to think that the 600 or so custom officers is overstaffed. That's not the case. The reality is this is an archipelago with all kinds of ports of entries that are unmanned.
Yes.
And you need to have someone unmanned.
Yes.
Unmanned, and it's irresponsible. It's very irresponsible for the Minister of Finance and for the Minister of National Security. You can't have boats pulling into their private
marinas,
docks.
Yeah.
No, it should be manned. So custom officers should be there. I mean, I look at it all the time, right? When I go to the dock on Porter's Key and I see brand new stuff coming off of from the Family Islands to Nassau, I said, wow, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Well, we know why it's possible.
They moved it to the Family
They
Islands.
moved it to the Family Islands because there's no custom officer there. And they can put it on the mailboat and bring it to Nassau. We know that's possible. That's because we do not believe that this country is an archipelago. We believe that Nassau or New Providence is the Bahamas. In fact, you got 300
face the
immigration
issue.
officers. 300.
Yeah.
Are you serious? In an archipelago?
Yeah.
No.
That ain't enough to just wind Freeport. You're talking 300. See, and that's what I'm saying. So these are opportunities for growth and development. But this kind of talk is normally, there's some people, very boring because their whole thing is that, you know, they need to have something, you know, political happen. It's everything is centered around what happens with the political pendulum swinging left or right. The bottom line is that we've got to find sure ways and means of developing the Bahamas and making sure that people are able to. What you said just now, Paul, tells me that we can have all kinds of jobs for people because jobs are very, I mean, these positions need to be filled. If you're going to have customs and immigration people just huddle here in town and they're not where they're supposed to be at these ports of entry,
but you see,
and people could bring in all kinds of things.
Here's what prevents that from happening. Here's what narrow-minded thinking and closed minds say. If I go and do that and deploy